Good afternoon. Welcome back to the CIO Summit. Thank you for being here at 3:30. And this session for me, every session for me is a privilege to introduce great people I admire. At this time, it's a real pleasure to introduce Alma Miller and César Camargo. I have had the opportunity of working with them together. Believe me, having the opportunity of having on the stage two former CIOs and CEOs working from the States and Spain and the States is a real privilege to understand what is going on and to pay attention to the very powerful message. The topic is going to be adaptative advantage, how tech leaders are gaining a competitive edge. But in order to introduce and to warm up a little bit the room, please can we launch the video, please? And then you please come on board.
Change is the law of life and business. You need to adapt and learn to survive and grow. With the right talent and technology, anything is possible. To change fast, businesses need adaptive solutions. Solutions as unique as the problems they solve. That's where Sngular brings expertise. 1,000 restless minds across 4 continents. We value openness and fresh perspectives, creating adaptive solutions at the cutting edge. Adaptiveness defines us. It's how we've grown, embracing different business models and ventures, helping clients transform their organizations. We work as a team of teams, mobilizing the right people and the right tech to bring fast, scalable help exactly where and how it's needed. We're diverse specialists, solving challenges together. We look beyond the obvious. We empower our talent to learn and explore their curiosity, to imagine the impossible. Together, we find a way to make it happen. This is our adaptive advantage.
Hello. Can everybody hear me? Yes? Thank you so much for joining us. You are all very brave to come after lunch, and I hope you had coffee and you had the opportunity to prepare for a session that we hope will be very relevant and very helpful to all of you. César Camargo is our global CEO at Sngular. I am Alma Miller. I am in the US as CEO there. We have worked together for 6 years, right?
Yeah, 6 years or something like that. So a lot of things have changed in the last 6 years. So.
Yes, indeed. And we want to talk about adaptive advantage, which is a philosophy that we're embracing. And we want to talk about this not as consultants, not as academics, which we are not, but as industry executives that are in the middle of implementing initiatives to gain an adaptive advantage in our everyday operations, both in Spain and in all of our 8 countries. So we really just want to share real-life examples, tell you how it's going so far, and just have a conversation on adaptive advantage. And what the heck is adaptive advantage? The definition, in our industry, change is constant, right? And it's accelerating. And I think everybody here understands that it is more important than ever to be able to change, both individually and as companies. We need to change and adapt faster than ever. And so we have a conversation about this in 3, we want to focus on 3 different points, right? First, talent, right? Second, technology. And third, our organizational model. So we'd like to focus the conversation on adaptive advantage and define it as the ability to change fast, but learn even faster. And what can we do to attract talent and retain it using adaptive advantage? How can we use technology to create adaptive advantage for our clients and companies? And finally, how can we, as an organization, embrace a model of team of teams that will foster more adaptive advantage? So we'll leave a few minutes at the end for some questions, but let's dive right in and start with talent. And as you saw in our video, we celebrate many people in our company that are reinventing themselves. And we are two good examples. When I met you, you were deep in the engine, the IT engine, as a developer in the US.
Yeah, in fact, it was fun because when I met Alma, I heard Alma Miller, and she said, okay, she should be an American lady, so I should improve my English. And she started to speak in perfect Spanish. What's happening? Oh no, you have lived 20 years in Spain. So as she was saying, I was a full-time developer. I enjoyed most of my time in the IDE. Honestly, I think that I enjoyed more than now that I'm working more with Excel than with Kafka. And I remember another example of adaptability in Alma. You have to see her explaining about microservices architecture, CQRS patterns, and the first time that she heard to me is talking about that, I said, what are you saying? But finally, she was better than most of our software architects. Amazing.
And I'm sure all of you have also experienced reinventing yourself or pivoting from one role to another and just learning new skills, learning how to do new things, getting out of your comfort zone, and you almost have to give up your professional identity to embrace a new one, right? So from developer to global CEO, I went from marketing to microservices, and all of our examples in our video of colleagues that have done similar things. But as we said, let's get down to concrete examples of things that we are doing in Sngular that we think are helping our colleagues reinvent themselves and embrace this continuous learning mindset. And one of them comes to mind. We have e-learning specialists that have created a learning marketplace in which every employee can access micro certifications in a wide range of different subjects. So some people have a technical profile and want to learn more soft skills. Some people are more staff, want to learn technical skills. And in this platform, they can learn from a community of practice. So these are not courses in which you study and then take an exam and then you pass it, you get your certification. These are certifications that are guided by a group of practice of experienced people in the company that take you through the whole process, and you're learning by doing, right? Just to give you an example, API design, for example.
So for instance, API design is one of the micro certifications that we have in the team labs. So what in the way that we do? So we involve the learners, the people that is going through the certification with a team that is currently in the real life. They are doing API design, implementation, and so on. So we involve them in this kind of project. We challenge them with real examples. Hey, we need you to design that. We need you to find that. Hey, this is not totally well documented. Of course, like real life. I have never seen a real complete documentation. So after a few weeks, they have gone through, let's say in 6 weeks, they have gone through an experience that typically will need 6 months in the professional career. So they learned a lot of lessons that later can apply. And like this one, there are lots of other specialities that they are even not technical stuff, because we need to help the technical people to become managerial people like me. So we have a lot of interest in that part too.
And even though they are Sngular employees, these are certifications that they take with them no matter where they work, right? So another of our companies in the group, Manfred, specializing in technical recruitment, has a way of creating a CV or a resume that has nothing to do with the traditional resume that has your education and your work experience. This is a completely different approach in which you can upload all of your micro certifications. You can upload peer reviews. You can give more information, more dimension and richness to your profile. And the best part is you have control of that data. So you decide what parts of your resume are visible to who and on what platforms. So it's a different approach to a resume. It's a different approach to certifications. And so far to date, we're noticing that those two initiatives, among others, are really helping us encourage our talent to be in that continuous learning mode. And it's almost more important many times than compensation to just retain that technical talent, because it's a war out there for talent right now. The best people really want to be in that continuous learning mode. And these are two examples of things we're doing to encourage them to do that. We said we would talk about technology, right? Things that we are doing specifically with technology to help companies gain that adaptive advantage. So what comes to mind in terms of examples of things that we're doing for clients that we work in to help them be more adaptive?
Okay, so first lesson that I got, especially with the change from a technical role to a not so much technical role, is that when you are in the technical side, you typically think in terms of technology, how can I do this better? How can I do this faster? How can I do it more resilient? But sometimes you forget that you have to explain which is the impact that these changes will have in the business. And in the end of the day, we typically have the same challenge that has to be answered. How can we adapt faster to the changes? How can we have a business future faster to the market? So there is, I will explain like two practices, but there is something that I like a lot. Why? Because honestly, I don't like to work in weekends, and I don't like to work in the nights neither. So when you are involved in technology project, you typically have to do, let's say, deployments in the night. So the name that we call to let's say, an important indicator that we have in Sngular. Let's do the morning coffee deployments to production. And we are talking about coffee. Why are we mixing coffee and production? Because we want to make sure that we are ready to deploy at any time, any day, and we don't want to suffer the typical long night that surely some of you have hung on in the past. So what can we do, or how did we do that? So I will illustrate with an example. Some time ago, when I was in the other side of the Atlantic, I was involved in an open banking platform that we were required to do a re-platform, a redesign. So we started with the most obvious part. Okay, let's define a microservice architecture. Let's package everything as containers. Let's move to the cloud. Let's start with the DevOps pipeline. The DevOps thing was amazing at that moment. So we got the continuous delivery really soon. But when we had to go to production deployment, we were talking about regulated industry. So I say, oh, you have to go through a lot of different processes that they were a mess. So what was our reasoning? Okay, what is easy to adapt? Can we adapt this huge company to what the modern development says? Or can we adapt the technology to fulfill their requirements in a way that will work for us? We are humble people, so we said, okay, let's try to change our side. So we prepared something that the deployment team, that they have a former deployment team, they were deploying in the way that they were used to do. That was pressing a button. What does it mean? In the end, they were part of our development team, although they didn't know. They were approving our pull requests. They were checking in a place the versions of the different services that they were deploying, the change log, whatever. So they were fulfilling their requirements. Meanwhile, they were working in an agile way like we did. The result, we started to deploy several times a day, and we were coming from deploying once a month in the best case.
So deployment at coffee time is a good sign.
Totally, and especially when the coffee is good.
Well, you mentioned, and you taught me microservices. What other trends do I need to keep in mind?
So now I suppose that many of you are involved in some kind of event-driven architecture project in your companies. I assume that some of you are dealing with Kafka complexities. How can we do that? How can we persuade the business guys to do that? How can we justify this investment? So I'm also a big fan of this architecture, especially because I have gone through them for different years and I have enjoyed and I have suffered them. So I think that later the important part is how can we involve the team in that? How can we make them to make sure that they are getting all the improvement of EDA architecture? So we used like a small trick that was like having a small claim written in different walls that was saying, okay, execute, notify, execute, notify. So everyone get in their mind, the mindset that every time that they were doing something, they were notifying something. As soon as you have the team working in that way, it's far easier later to add whatever system you have to do to persuade the people about the advantage of that.
Well, I'm sure that there's a long list of other initiatives in terms of technology that can help companies be more adaptive. But in the time we have, we promised that we would talk about the third driver of adaptive advantage, which is the organizational model. And at least in our experience, this is critical because it fosters more adaptation within the team and within the operation of the company. The term team of teams was actually born or created in the military. I don't know how many of you know or are familiar with this term, but General Stanley McChrystal was fighting with the Allied forces. They were fighting Al-Qaeda in Iraq. And the situation was so extreme and so unprecedented. It was so uncertain, it was so fluid, it was changing. And he quickly understood that the hierarchy, the rigid hierarchy of the military was not going to work. It just wasn't going to give them the speed and the ability to change. And that is how he created teams of teams. So a team of teams basically is decentralized autonomy, but working in partnership, a team of teams. We have embraced this model at Sngular. We have about 11 teams, and we will be deploying another 5 before the end of the year. So this is right now the experience that we're having, and in terms of sharing learning with all of you is it is critical to give us agility to grow. So without moving to a team of teams model, I don't think we could continue growing and expanding internationally at the speed that we are. And so that is the first. The second is just innovation and the ability to have an organization that is geared to be adding value all the time. Learnings, in the time we have left over, first, I think we are finding that in terms of talent, talent attraction, talent retention, it is critical because their careers are enriched, right? They have more opportunities. If you have teams of teams, they have more opportunities. They can switch between teams and therefore gain very diverse experience. And that offsets, I think, the fear of change as well. Second is that it is a team of teams, meaning you always need to have the values and the purpose that are common to everybody. Everybody needs to have a set of rules in their head and a set of criteria, and the purpose and the value need to be embraced by everybody. Those are always common to everybody, and it helps everybody just execute more autonomously. Third, I think...
Community of practices.
Sorry?
The community of practices.
Yeah.
There. So community of practices, I will let Alma to breathe a bit.
The community of practice is critical, and there are transversal or cross disciplines that are common to all of the teams. So, for example, HR, finance, brand, all of those are not duplicated, but rather transversal across all of the teams. I think the whole geography is also an interesting learning. We are now in 8 different countries, and not all of the teams are duplicated in each of the countries, right? So it depends on the rate of growth and expansion of each individual team. It just depends on the team. I think that's the experience we're having so far. But I don't know if you want to add anything about team of teams.
Yeah, I think that there is another important concept with this team of teams is that allow us to embrace the diversity that we have in the company, because we are not talking only about diversity in terms of race or in terms of gender, in terms of different interests, different skill set. How do they perceive the reality, and how do they innovate? I think that you went through the innovation that is so difficult to have now in these times, like a centralized thing that do the innovation for a specific company. We believe that is, and our experience is that the innovation comes better when it's coming from closer to the ground. You have a team with a huge experience in the VR experiences, surely they will have ways to do in the same way that we have another team with e-commerce or we have another team with design. So this is another that, like the talent has this bigger space to grow, and so has bigger space to challenge the company. Because this structure has some challenges. That means that you have to be open to receive ideas that they were not in the plan. So you are creating the plan with along the way. So with the ideas that they are bringing to the table, and you have to be flexible enough to adapt your plan to the plan of your people.
I think our founder said something like, Sngular is no longer an organization, it acts like an organism. And I think that phrase really captures the whole spirit of being able to adapt and change constantly. And the 3 examples we've talked about, talent and technology, and our team of teams model, are 3 ways in which we are fostering and encouraging this in our organization. So that is what we've came to share. We're running out of time, but we do have time for a couple of questions. We have 2 minutes in case anybody has any questions, and if not, we're going to be around, and we'd love to continue the conversation with all of you. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much.